Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of a little chit chat about astrology with my mom. And I love doing these because there's always lots of questions of not just about astrology, but what's going on in the world. But what we found, and a lot of people sometimes are a little standoffish with astrology, or they don't believe in it, or they even have like fear of it. So, Mom, I want you to address that. We hear that some people are actually afraid of astrology. And why do you think that is?
Well, it really does have a source. I mean, if you look back to the Essenes, Jesus was an Essene. He was educated by the Essenes. They were astrologers. They studied the heavens and the earth. They knew the power of it. And it wasn't until Constantine in the 14th century when he edited the Bible that he took everything about astrology and reincarnation out of the Bible, and that's the King James version of the Bible. But even in, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi scrolls, all of these scrolls that they found, the books that didn't end up in the Bible, they have references to astrology. So a lot of it has to do particularly with fear. The religions, which were not only, the religion, but they were the ruling force in a lot of these countries. They had their court appointed astrologers initially, okay? And those astrologers had to be pretty darn accurate or they'd lose their head, okay? Why did they have court appointed astrologers? Because they knew the power of it. And then later on, the religions determined that astrology was giving the people too much power. They wanted to be the ones that the people came to, not to look up their astrology, but to come to us to get answers, us to get permission, that kind of thing. And so the religions literally started, a systematic destruction of astrology.
Yeah, well, I even remember growing up, in Mormonism, that we were taught that astrology and tarot and all of these things were evil
Right.
and, don't mess with it, don't dabble with it. It's all bad. It's
Yeah.
all,
Mhm.
because I even remember when you started studying astrology, I actually was like, my mom is a quack. Like, oh my God, I can't believe she's going into this. Like, holy cow. Until I finally talked to you and actually you read for me, and it was like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
wow,
How did
like
you
this
know
stuff.
all that?
Yeah, like that's some powerful. I haven't seen you in years, and you're telling me what's been happening for me for the last few years, and I haven't seen you, but it's in the stars.
Right.
And it's pretty fascinating. So now, there's all types of astrology, right?
Right.
There's not just, so can you go into a little bit of there's a couple more questions I have for you, but the different types of astrology and what kind of astrology you specialize in, and like what you've studied, and what kind of sets you apart, what makes you different than your typical astrologer. And by the way, like typical astrology, what people think typical astrology is.
Okay.
That was a loaded, but
Yeah. No, no, I get it. Well, first of
yeah.
all, no people are alike. No two people are alike. Okay. Your astrology is the fingerprint to your personality. Okay. Very potent, very powerful, and extremely informative. Now, the two basic types of astrology that are used are Vedic astrology, and that astrology is based on the fixed stars. Okay. And then there is Western astrology, which is what I practice. It's called Ancient Western, and it is based on a person's position on the earth, like the latitude and longitude of where you are on the planet. Okay.
When you're born.
When you're born,
Well,
and also but for transits and solar returns and all that other stuff. It's all based on latitude and longitude. It's geocentric, based on where you are on Earth. And that's what I practice. Now, this type of astrology, ancient Western astrology, is much better on personality. It focuses on why you are who you are, your personality. Vedic astrology is more about prediction, very little on personality. And I specialize in the astrology of personality, why people are who they are, and to help people understand that. So many people come to me and think that there's something wrong with them. No, you just have to understand your astrology and what you came here to learn, and work with. But as far as if you're a person who doubts, recognize, if you will, that if God created the heavens and the earth, why would he create things, these unique planets and energies that would be evil? That are literally penetrating us. We know that the moon affects the tides, it affects the waters in our bodies. In fact, it's best to have a surgery when it's a new moon rather than a full moon, because in a new moon you don't bleed as much and you do in a full moon during a full moon. So yes, the planets affect us, and they affect us directly. And through the course of time, we're able to see what happens when certain planets are interacting with each other. Thousands of years we've been collecting that empirical data so that we know exactly what happens when these planets combine. So what makes me different is I help people find clarity and practical solutions to everyday problems, which creates happier and more stress-free lives. That's really what I specialize in, is the clarity and solutions.
Well, and this is something I really love about the way that you do. And this is when I tell people, like, of course, everyone I meet, you got to have a reading with my mom. Like, because they always come to me asking, because they think I might have some answers for them. And I'm like, listen, you really want help? Have a reading with my mom. And what I always tell them is, what I love about the way that she does astrology, the way I sell it, is that she can look at your chart and she can see your strengths, your weaknesses. She can see where you're going to have challenges, and she empowers you. She teaches you how to overcome these things and how to use these different aspects of your strengths to overcome your weaknesses. And I always find that so empowering, because it's not just like, oh, well, you're kind of a shitty person. It's like, no, it's like, look, you've got all these amazing qualities and strengths within yourself, and how to use that to, create the solutions and have a happier life. And for me, I've always found it empowering. It's just like, every time I have a reading with you, I just feel empowered. I feel like, okay, great. And I also feel empowered because I understand a little bit more detail of, like, okay, these energies are going to be working on you, Misty, for this amount of time. Yeah. So be aware of that. Like, you're going to be going through this. And so, like, if you feel yourself getting angry all the time and all this, it's not you, it's energy moving through you. And so that you're prepared with these tools of, like, when you're going through it, you're like, okay, Wendy told me this was going to happen. Like, mom told me this was going to happen. And okay, so here it is. Mm-hmm. And then this is and you give the tools on how to manage those things. And, and understanding it is such great empowerment. So that's how I always talk about you, is just like, just to see the dynamic of that blueprint and how to work together to create your best life. Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to, because one thing that irritates the shit out of me is, like you said, like the Sunday newspaper astrology. Yes. That makes astrology look really bad, because you can take any one of those things and apply it to yourself and just be like, oh yeah, like, right. And it's such like, so can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. Those, in fact, whoever decided to do sun sign astrology in the newspaper or the magazines literally shot themselves in the foot, because you can't just take one planet. You can't just say, this is the sun and this is what it represents in this sign for everybody, because it doesn't take into account any of the variables at all. And so by putting it in the newspaper, by putting it in, by the crossword puzzle, it turns it into be like a parlor trick or something, a game. And this is very serious, helpful information. And, to just pick up a newspaper and say, oh, for the month of October, this is what it's going to be like for Taurus. Well, no, people, tell me all the time, I've been reading this, it doesn't fit me at all. And then I'm able to tell them why it doesn't fit them.
Well, because they all have this unique, complex blueprint.
That's right. And everybody is unique. And so what I help to do is to identify the strengths and identify the weaknesses and teach them how to maximize the strength and minimize the weaknesses. And I have this powerful, incredible, unique blend of astrological wisdom and dynamic coaching, which helps people successfully navigate all these things like relationships, career, health challenges, family challenges. You know, I have so many parents that come to me because they can't control their children. What's going on with the child? You know, what's going on with my husband? Well, how come my parents are driving me crazy? You know, so I'm able to do that through astrological wisdom. And then the coaching is huge. I really like to do a main reading for someone and their life-changing readings. It's called the life reading. And then included with that are 3 months of coaching where I help people to integrate what I've taught them. And that has turned out to be the most powerful dynamic.
Well, yeah, and because the initial reading is so like, it's not just some 15-minute reading. Like it could take a couple of hours. Like you get in-depth recording, and there is so much information. That's why I think the coaching also is really important, is because there's so much information that when you walk away, you're already filled with questions. Again, like after it sits with you, you're just like, oh my God, I want to ask her more about this. Oh my God, I want to ask her more about this. So the coaching afterwards, I think, is it's awesome because it allows that check-in, and if other questions arise, and you know, also just like you said, kind of like how to integrate what you're learning and all of that. So that's really awesome. So, you know, any of you out there that are afraid or whatever, and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
And
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. So, but we can talk more about that at the end and stuff, but I want people to know that we'll give all the information below where how to contact Wendy and how, you know, all of that. So don't worry about that. That'll all be included in the links below if you're interested in doing a reading, or even if you're not interested, you just want to, if you want to ask her something or something about readings or anything like that, you can contact Wendy. Now, I would like to move on to some meat and potatoes about, you know, why we do these calls, because we all know the world, like, it's crazy because I just open up any Facebook or any new, and it's just the bombardment of everything. It just seems like everything is crazy right now. So I want to know from you, what is important for us to know today?
Well, like I titled the video, it's October predictions. Okay. October is the pivotal month for all of 2022. And there is a lot that's going to happen in October. And I've told a lot of people that, you know, people are saying, or is it going to start going up, or are things going to start getting better? But no, 2022 is the bottom, the very bottom of the graph. And it's not going to be until 2023 till we start getting an upswing. So we gotta deal with the crap. And that's what is going to be coming out more and more. Now, you know, I've predicted the Queen's going to die and Biden's going to die, and there are going to be other things. But in this pivotal month, there are some huge aspects that are happening, and I want to cover them with you because they're going to be truths revealed. There are going to be changes in leadership, and there are going to be deaths, and there are going to be exposures. And let me tell you why those things are happening. Now, the first, and I've talked about this over and over, I can't impress upon you how importantly powerful these aspects are. And that's Saturn square Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus, Saturn is in Aquarius, and they're squared at exactly 18 degrees as of today. Okay, the 30th. And this dynamic square. This is the fourth square of these two planets in the last couple of years. And so you wonder what all the chaos is about, what's all of this stuff that's being unearthed and craziness, energy you feel. It's because of Saturn, Uranus, square Uranus. And I'm going to tell you why these energies are creating such problems. This always causes big events, always. The last time these two were in aspect, which was an opposite each other, was in 2008 when we had the huge crash, financial crash. They were there then too. Any time in the globe that there is something big that happens, Uranus is always in aspect to Saturn. Okay, so this is.
But wait a minute, okay.
Go
So
ahead.
tell us why that is. What is it about Uranus and what is it about Saturn? What are the what are the energies of those planets that make that happen? What's happening?
Okay. Saturn is all about the old structure, the old government. Okay. It's about slavery. Uranus is about the new, and it's about freedom. So we have this dynamic of the old and the new. And the fight, and you see this with people, you see people going back and agreeing with government, and even though it's fascist, even though that our rights are being taken away, and here in the United States, where our government isn't following any constitutional principles whatsoever, it's become extremely fascist. So we have this government. Saturn represents government, and Uranus represents the people. Okay. And Saturn is holding on. It doesn't want to give any power away. So it's doing and fighting in any way it can, unconstitutionally or not, illegally or not, to try and hold on to their power. And Uranus is doing quick and sudden changes. Things are happening just out of the blue that are going to change that dynamic. All right. And this happens. It has to do with earth changes, which are earthquakes. It's called the Great Shaking. This aspect is entitled the Great Shaking. And, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, but also shaking that has to do with world economics, leaderships. Okay. All of this stuff, this big October energetic craziness, it's like it's been building. Haven't we all felt that something's been building? Don't we have an expectation? It's like popping a zit, literally. That's what's happening, and we've been feeling it. And a lot of people aren't sleeping because the energies are so chaotic. But what's happening is everything's coming into a crescendo. Okay. Everything has been building, and now through October particularly, we're going to see the results of that. There are going to be big surprises coming. This is a huge month. This is the pivotal month for all of 2022. This is what we've been building toward. And the first big aspect that deals with that starts on now. So actually October 1st is that exact square again with Uranus, Saturn. Chaos, complete chaos. Now, we're feeling it now, and they're going to be at 18 degrees square, in Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus and Saturn is in Aquarius. They're both at 18 degrees square. And they're going to be exactly within a degree or two of each other through the middle of October. And then they'll start to get a little further apart. However, the chaos and the energies that occur during this will be with us for decades. It's that.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. These are lasting energies. Okay, the changes that occur. I mean, just look at the last time they were in play. We had that huge economic collapse in 2008. Now, it wasn't just that they were in play. Saturn had moved, Pluto had moved from Sagittarius into Capricorn in December of 2008. And it was just everything collapsed. Millions of people lost their homes, their retirements, everything. Okay. And we're still dealing with it. That 2008 collapse, aren't we? People haven't been able to restore, the losses that they undertook, that happened to them, losing their pensions. They're never restored. Look at all the Ponzi schemes and all the corruption within those mortgage companies. Did even one of them go to jail for their corruption?
I don't believe so.
Not one. And the people are still suffering as a result of it. So much governmental corruption. So this is going to be part of what we're dealing with for a long time. Now, the next big issue is Mars. Mars is always the trigger. It's fire and it's action. It's war. It's explosive. It's vitriol. And Mars right now is going very slow because it's getting ready to go retrograde, which it does on the 30th of October, okay, through January 12th. Now, you can say, well, there's not going to be any impact of it until then. No, that isn't true, because it's moving slowly, which makes it more concentrated and powerful. Okay.
So it's like it's cooking as it goes.
Oh yeah. It's cooking us as it goes. Okay.
And where is it right? Like where's it moving through? What is it affecting right now?
Gemini.
Through Gemini. Mm-hmm. And Gemini represents what? What is Gemini?
Well, Gemini is communication, and particularly, and right now, as we see it going slower, a lot more information is going to come out, because Gemini likes to move really fast. Gemini is what rules the Mercury retrograde, right? And so when it slows down, all of the communications get screwed up, don't they? So go ahead, what?
Well, I have a question, because I remember, like, when it has to do with Mars and you're talking, it's going through Gemini, which is communication. On a personal level for all of us, does that also affect us personally in our communication?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so not just globally, this is happening. This is impacting us individually. Like, does that mean that we're going to be, what I'm noticing is that lately I feel like I've been very aggressive with my communication.
Absolutely.
Like sometimes I'm just shocking myself. Like I'm like I want to be mean. Like I want to, like I can feel it in my communication that I want to. So that this is for everyone out there, that it's like, yeah, she's talking about the globe, but this also affects us each personally. And it'll affect you uniquely a little flavor differently because of your own personal blueprint and your own personal chart. That's why getting a reading is so important. Yeah. But this is all of us individually and globally, right? Yes. So Mars is moving over our communication.
Yeah, the global is the macrocosm. You've probably heard this talked about. Our personal is the microcosm of the macrocosm, and so everything that happens on the planet in the microcosm affects us individually. Yeah, all of it. And it affects us harder depending on the house that it impacts in your particular chart. So wherever Mars is in your chart and how it impacts the other planets within your chart is going to give you a good indication. But yes, it's going to make communication much, much stronger. Okay, much stronger. So, we have to remember that it's very warlike energy. It creates tremendous power. And we already have the war going on with Russia and Ukraine, but it will exacerbate that war. It already is, because it's slowed down. And, you can see already with communications about it, we're not getting the whole story. We're not getting the US involvement in all of this. That's what's going on underneath. But that information is going to be coming up for us to see. Okay. There's this that will help with that, and also the eclipses that are coming. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. This explosion of the Russian pipeline is huge. And remember in the last video with Misty where I said astonishing information, astonishing things that would just astonish you. And when I heard that, I went, okay, there it is. There it is. Because that destruction of the ability to have gas flow into Europe to heat their homes is going to impact them so dramatically. And whoever did this, and there's, strong indication that it was the US that did it, because of the things that Biden has said. I mean, they were so short-sighted. To me, it's like playing on a chess game, okay, well, you made this move, so I'm going to move that. It's like kids in high school. That's what it's like to me. It's just like stupid, irresponsible, immature kids at high school that are so short-sighted. They don't care about the people at all. It's like, who's just going to win the game? To me, it is total corruption, and it's dark and it's evil in my view. And yes, Putin isn't perfect either. And the United States is not perfect. And, one of the things about the US that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, from the time of the collapse, of the wall and Putin's emergence, he's never invaded another country. He's been dealing with Ukraine, but he hasn't gone out of his way to invade other countries, not like the US. Since that period of time, the US has invaded 50 countries for regime change wars to make sure that the leaders of those countries were more agreeable to the needs of the West, to the needs of the United States. Now, who's the real aggressor here? But we don't hear about that in our media. Other countries do, but we don't. So there's a lot more stuff going on under the surface that has been kept from us that's going to be coming up so that we see the truth. Okay. And this Mars retrograde in Gemini is going to give us a lot of that information. Now, interestingly enough, explosions are ruled by Mars and also Uranus. So we have Mars slowing down, going retrograde. We have Uranus retrograde, squaring Saturn retrograde. So these explosions are all part of those energies, and we've been predicting them, that there would be explosions. We just didn't know where. We just didn't know exactly when, but we know. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what finally comes out about who really did it. But most of the world believes that it was the United States. So one of the other things we know is there will be retribution. Putin is not going to sit still for this. What's he going to do to get even? What's his next move on the chessboard to put himself in a stronger position? We just simply don't know. But I did listen to one interview in alternate media where it showed a map of all of the US communication systems, a lot of which are underground, and apparently they're very vulnerable. It'd be very easy for the Russians to sabotage the communication systems in the United States. And that will be interesting. And that's something you need to ask yourself. If you don't have a phone, if you don't have a means of communicating, the internet's gone, what are you going to do? And what if it's for an extended period of time? These are things people need to be thinking about. They just think, oh, everything's going to be fine and we don't need to worry about anything. And, it's kind of like we've been lulled into a false sense of security for a long period of time. And that security is rapidly leaving. And so, and we're going to talk more about preparedness at the end of this, but
Well, I just think so much a part of what we've been conditioned is to be everything convenient, to be lazy, to
Mhm.
rely on the system,
Disposable.
to just life is easy, la-di-da-di-da, just chase the carrot and make your money and, buy your things and, look over here,
Distractions. Yeah.
I'm always leery when, you've only got a few people that own all of the media outlets, all of them. And it's a few people and you're just like, what narrative are they trying to give me? What are they trying to get me to believe?
Right.
What is it that they're saying? And this is, it always, I love being a skeptic because I just, some people, are you a conspiracy theorist? I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I do know there's conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I'd be ignorant to think that there's not. There's just too much proof that there's that we have not been told the truth.
No.
Like,
And
I mean, it doesn't, everything in the past you can see we have not been told the truth.
And I think people need to understand that everything coming out of DC right now are lies. Everything. You cannot believe anything. It is all propaganda to try and distract you, divert from the real issues. And, I've been in politics for many years and I understand, I see exactly what's going on and question everything. Do not trust anyone and what they say. You go into your heart and you discern yourself what's true, even with what we tell you. Go into your heart. Now, remember always, fear screams the loudest in your head. And, oh my God, what are we going to do? And all this fear and stuff. And so you can't hear the truth. You need to get quiet. Spirit speaks in whispers, and you have to get mentally quiet often to hear the truth. And that's what I recommend everybody do. Take time every day to just get quiet and listen. Okay. So the other thing we want to bring up about Mars. Now, Mars is going to be in Gemini for 7 months, which is huge. Mars is usually in a sign for like, maybe 6 weeks.
Why 7 months?
Because of the retrograde cycle. It's going to be retrograde until January. I think it's January 12th. And then it goes direct again and then finally leaves Gemini. So it's the retrograde cycle that does it. So it's going to be there for 7 months. Now,
in Gemini.
In Gemini. And Mars, go ahead.
Gemini represents what?
Communication.
Oh yeah, okay.
Communication and information. And Mars is, and Gemini is used to moving very, really fast. Right now it's slowed down. When it goes retrograde, literally on the 30th, it's like at a standstill. It's not even moving.
On the 30th of October.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mars retrograde can also have to do with civil war. And we want to watch out for that, war and violence. Now we have war, but this is bigger than that. I think with what the US is doing, which is illegal, which is using government agencies to try and destroy their opponents, which is what is happening with Trumps and the Patriots and what they call the MAGA Republicans. Now, I would feel the same way if the Republicans were doing it to the Democrats. It's illegal. It is unconstitutional to use government agencies to harass and destroy your political opponents. And this shows you how far our government has fallen to use these fascist tactics to destroy their political opponents. Now, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm an independent, and I'm just looking at what's happening. I'm a constitutionalist, and what I see happening is wrong and it's illegal. And I know that over 50 Trump supporters have been issued warrants. They've taken their phones, they've taken their computers, ever since they raided Malargo. And I wouldn't put it past them. And I think this might be the tipping point, is if Trump is arrested. Because his supporters, they'll go balls to the wall. And I think that's where the civil war will come in, if the administration, in order to destroy Trump, because they know if he runs again, he'll win. They know that already. And so that's why they're doing all of this, to try and destroy him, to get him on some felony, which will make it where he can't run again. So if they throw him in jail, which I think is highly likely, because they're scared to death that they're going to take over, that's going to create a civil war. There will be so much polarization, so much ugliness, such violence. That's what we want to watch out for. And what we want to do at that point is withdraw and observe. And I keep telling people, stay emotionally neutral. Do not give your power away to something you cannot change. And each issue you have to go, is there something I can do? Can I change that? And if there isn't, then keep your power. Don't give it away. Don't give your emotions away to it. Observe, see what's going on. That's where you're going to gain real power, because if you get totally emotional, it skews your ability to see truth, because you're too emotionally invested. You just sit back and watch and see what happens. Okay. So another thing that's going to happen, 2 very powerful planets are going to go from retrograde to direct in October. We have Pluto stationing direct on the 8th in Capricorn, and Saturn stationing direct on in Aquarius at 18 degrees Aquarius on the 22nd. Now, when they station direct, they are virtually at a standstill. This is when they are at their most powerful and their closest to the earth. These days, I think you need to really watch out for the 8th, when Pluto is at a complete standstill, which is total transformation. It is, it has to do with power, secrets, lies. It has to do with sexual perversion, all of that stuff. So when it stations direct, it's not moving. And then on the 22nd, 23rd of October is when Saturn does the same thing. And at that time, it's still an aspect to Uranus. But Saturn becomes even more powerful during that. So we can expect a lot of huge transformation and shakeup in governments, big business, big money, and big institutions. High up people are going to fall from grace. It's just the way it is.
And this standstill that you're talking about, how long is that supposed to last? The standstill.
For these outer planets, Pluto is going to be, virtually at a standstill for several weeks. Okay. And then it slowly starts moving. And, it moves so slowly, it takes 250 years to go around the whole zodiac. Saturn will start moving faster by the end of the month. It will probably, you'll see some direction, some movement. But in the meantime, they're slow and powerful. And they're called malefics. And what that means is they're the hard ones. They're not Jupiter. You know, they're not the sun, which are the benefics, which help us in direct, beautiful ways. These are the malefics, and they help us, but typically through pain.
Great.
Yeah, yeah. So there are going to be many that fall from grace. And now, the last thing I want to talk about, which is so powerful, are the eclipse. We're moving into eclipse season. Now, if you don't understand what an eclipse is, every 6 months, the sun and the moon are aspected by the nodes of the moon, the north node and the south node. Okay. And that's what creates an eclipse.
What's a node?
The node, it's an access point. Okay. It's an ecliptical point, the nodes of the moon. And they're powerful points of energy. Okay. So when, like with the one coming up, the solar eclipse on the October 25th, that's going to be impacted by the south node. And that's what creates the eclipse. So this is at 2 degrees Scorpio. And an eclipse in Scorpio is just going to, you have to remember too, eclipse energy is the darkening of the light. Okay. Something big is to be exposed that will be revealed out of the darkness. Okay. So when there's eclipse, and this will be a partial eclipse actually over Europe. And this is what's really interesting, because I looked at the chart of the EU, the European Union, and the cusp of their 4th house, which is their homeland, is at 2 degrees Scorpio.
So it's going to be direct.
For them over the land mass of the European Union. And also in that 4th house, their sun is in Scorpio, their Mercury is in Scorpio. I mean, all of this Scorpio energy. And what have I said about Scorpio energy? Operating from its most difficult and challenging perspective, its secrets and lies and manipulation. It's the underworld. It's deep and it's dark, and there's sexual secrets, and there are all kinds of stuff that are going to be bubbling up to the top for the European Union. And the European Union, it's my understanding, is pretty much in trouble with the people there. And it also has to do with NATO and the war, the aggressiveness of NATO. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. But you might watch that, what happens over this eclipse era. Now, the eclipses are 2 weeks apart. So we're having the solar eclipse in Scorpio on the 25th. And then 2 weeks later, we have the lunar eclipse in Taurus. Now, that 2-week interval is where the energies are the most powerful. So who knows what's going to happen between that time. Very intense energy. Now, we know that Taurus represents food and food supplies, also has to do with the supply chain, that kind of thing. It also has to do with money. Our money, the global money supply system. Here, that's another thing that we need to be watching, because there's going to be a lot of change in money. Now, the World Economic Forum and the United Nations and, you know, the George Soros and all of these guys, see, they want to go to a trackable digital money system where they can track you, they can track your spending, and they can tell you what to do. And if you don't do what they want you to do and your carbon footprint is too big, they'll cut off your money, or they won't let you buy what you want to buy. Now, that's their agenda. They've been free to come out with the fact that that's what they want. And so it's going to be interesting as we watch this. And I know there are a lot of good guys out there that are working to thwart their plans. And let's pray that they're able to do that. Okay. But there will also be a lot more fighting and violence during these eclipse periods of time. So now, okay.
Sounds like a bumpy rest of the year.
Oh, it is a bumpy. And remember, this is the lowest point. And so even though people aren't hearing about stuff, especially if you listen to mainstream, you're not hearing any of this on mainstream. We're hearing it on alternate media, people who are digging and researching and telling the truth. Okay. And I like this new couple that's come out called Redacted on YouTube, and they're really good. And at first, when I saw them, and then I started listening, and I thought, these guys are doing their research. They're talking to you about factual things that are happening, not just opinions. So
I'm surprised they haven't gotten shut down yet,
well,
because that
yeah,
seems to happen to anyone that speaks out against
I know.
anything that's coming out of the main narrative.
And so we'll see. But I know even Russell Brand now has gone over to Rumble because they're not censored at all on Rumble. But what I want to talk to you about now is staying grounded, prepare. And some people ask me, what does that mean to prepare?
Yeah.
I
And
don't,
what does it mean to stay grounded?
I know, I don't even know how to do that. And so I'm going to tell you, the ways that I feel will help. But also to stay grounded has a lot to do with, like I talked about, emotional neutrality. It's like being in nature, enjoying the happy parts of your life, your family, and not allowing these soulless entities that work to skew your perception of reality. Okay. They want to the propaganda that they use to make you think certain things, which is what they're doing with all of this woke stuff, this propaganda to destroy the youth. And what's interesting about this youth, especially that was born prior to 2008, these are the Pluto and Sagittarius generation. These are the kids that have come to save the world. These are the ones that know about truth and fairness and justice. And these soulless entities understand that. And I watched this crazy TikTok video yesterday that literally blew my mind. I don't know if the person was a girl or a guy, but he had scars right here. He was just a young teenager, and he'd had his boobs removed. And his friend was sitting over there who had bandages wrapped around him, and it just had his boobs removed and his nipples removed. And they were just laughing and joking and have fun. These are teenagers that are being destroyed by these woke agendas. It is absolutely the most horrifying thing. These are the kids that are supposed to be saving humanity, and they're all wrapped up in their sexuality and their wokeness, and it's a travesty what's going on right now and what's going on in Hollywood. It's beyond my comprehension. Anyway.
But I'm just hoping that it gets to the point where it's so disgusting that it will literally wake people up.
Yeah.
To get to the point where you're like, okay, you've gone too far. It's amazing to me that this woke culture, people haven't you've gone too far. This has gone way too far. And I can't imagine, if I was a parent, I would be terrified to let my children go to school, or I'd just be like, you ain't,
no way.
We be homeschooling.
We be homeschooling.
We be homeschooling.
Right.
Because you don't need that shit in your brain.
If you just were subjected to that stuff, I would have pulled you out of school so fast. Their heads would spin.
Yep.
Anyway.
Well, the thing is, though, and this is what I think, is that there is a lot, and because we don't hear from them, because you're not going to see it, but I do know that there is a large, like, you've got the sleepwalkers, you've got the Walking Dead that
Yeah.
just, the cognitive dissonance, they can't see through all of it. They can't see through, they actually believe what they're being told and whatever. But I do think there's a large percentage of people like us that really question the whole thing
Yeah.
and be like, really, are you serious? Like, there's something wrong with this, and I'm not okay with it. And I think a lot of people are waking up through this because and if not the pain, like you said, these planets come to help us through pain, that the pain
Wake
of what's been happening is going to jolt you. It's like pain's the great motivator.
Yeah.
Like, and to wake you up to see that, we're being lied to. We don't know the truth. We don't know the full thing. And they want it that way. It's confusing. Everything is so discombobulated and confusing. We don't really know what's going on. But I just know ultimately it's just, and I keep seeing it more and more, is just this: be prepared for whatever, like hope for the best,
Yeah.
be prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
Like, don't act like we're above anything. Like a perfect example is like, it's not the end of the world, but it's like my electricity in my apartment. I live in Mexico, and someone had cut the power cable to my apartment. And I was like, God damn, right before we went to bed, and the luxury of having air conditioning because it's so hot here, you can't sleep. You guys know you cannot sleep when you're super hot and sweaty. So it cut off right before we went to bed. And I'm laying there and I'm like, there's nothing we can do. Not like, I'm not prepared. I don't have any type of, like, I can put a backup fan or anything like that. Tried to get through the night's sleep, wake up the next morning, electricity's still not on. We're calling everybody. When are we going to get electricity? When we went 48 hours without electricity, everything in my fridge started to melt and go bad. Like, I couldn't take a shower. We couldn't flush the toilet. We couldn't, like, and that was just 48 hours without electricity. And it's like, whoa, like, what are we prepared for? Do I have water supply? Like, we don't know. Like, it could have been a week without electricity.
Exactly.
Right. And what about the food in the fridge? And like, we couldn't even take a shower. Like, and so, it's real. And that's just a little, wire cutting that took a long time to get fixed. But it's like, are you prepared for if something, and I live in a place where storms happen, like hurricanes come through, like, to be prepared. And it's not just like end of world war or whatever. It's just anything.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. And so it's, I'm not prepared here in my little apartment, but I'm preparing a place out in the jungle, solar and water and
Right.
gardens and everything, but I wasn't out there. So it was like,
Yeah.
shoot, if I was out at my property where I'm prepared, I'd have my electricity, I'd have my water, I'd have
Right.
everything fine.
Generators going and
My generator, I've got my backup generator. But it's like, this is the thing that we need to talk about and really stress is, how do you prepare? And do you have some good resources of people where people can learn about preparedness?
Yeah, I
And
do. And
Yeah.
but to answer the question is how do I even start? I don't even know what that means, is one of the questions that I got. And so what you want to do is you want to make a list. Start there. What is it that you use every day? What is it that you need every day? Okay, like toilet paper or food. What foods do you eat every day? What medicines do you need to take?
Water.
And water and pet food. Now, two of the people, I had my subscription Zoom last night where we really talk about stuff that we can't talk about here. And two of them said there isn't pet food in the stores anymore. And this was a person from Idaho and another person from California. They can't find pet food already. So get your pet supplies, okay? Get you a big bag of something, and something's better than nothing, even though I've been really picky, but we don't know what's going to happen. You need to have some cash on hand. If the power goes out and you need to make some purchases, you can't go to an ATM. The banks are closed, the power's out everywhere. You need to have some cash on hand. Okay. And also you need to keep a full tank of gas. Keep your gas full. So if you get down a quarter of a tank, then go fill it up again. Okay. What is it that is important that you have? Like when I go to get my prescriptions, I don't have insurance other than Medicare, and I certainly don't do the Part D, which is a scam. And so I pay out of pocket. It's cheaper out of pocket than to be on Part D, actually. And so, but the insurance companies aren't telling me how many months I can get on my prescription. So I always get at least 2 months. And then when I get down another a month, then I go get 2 more months, you see, so that I'm getting ahead if there is something that happens. So think about that. Even if you just need, you take ibuprofen or something, those little things, you want to make sure you have this stuff like medical supplies, band-aids, and all of that kind of stuff. And go to Costco if you can and they have big packs of noodles and organic sauces and tuna fish and canned chicken and all of that stuff. And we started doing that a couple of years ago, where we would when we'd go, we'd buy extra. So now we have a pretty good supply, peanut butter and jelly and flour, and we make our own breads and all of that stuff. So you need to
Lots
make,
of non-perishables.
yes, but you need to think about it and make a list of it. Now,
Yep.
another thing, feminine hygiene products. People thinking about that, or people that use pee pads. And there are more people that use pee pads than who buy pads for menstruation.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. And so do you have all that stuff?
Mhm. Well, there was when I was living in California, because earthquakes, right? Like, again, we're not talking about end of world stuff. We're just talking about stuff that happens all the time. And so there was a group of friends that, Denise and Heidi, they all get readings from mom too. But we decided that we're like, wait a minute, if there was an earthquake, we need to have a plan. Like, we actually need to, like, if the phone systems are down, is there a meeting point? Like, we all had little kits at our house, like our little emergency kits. So that we had all these things. And then, it was creating a plan so that we knew how, if we needed to, how we could reach each other, how we could communicate with each other, how do we check in with each other? What's the meeting point? What's the plan if something goes down? Like, how are we going to do this? And that's the thing, is, like you said, if communication's down, and what are you going to do? Like, you want to find out if your mom's okay. You want to find out how are you, like, you don't know how you're going to do all of that. And is there a plan if you've got family members? Is there a meeting point if you all live in the same city that you're like, okay, then we all meet at this place, or whatever that might be, if it's possible, but some type of plan if some emergency were to happen,
Right.
whatever that might be. Like, Florida just got completely annihilated with this last hurricane, right? Just like category 4.
Bad.
They say a 50-year storm. So it's, this is what I mean. We just never know, and we don't know when things are going to happen, but it's just like she said, preparing. It's like, write a list of the things that you need, the things that you use.
Right. And
What
also get, that you can get, like at Costco, get a bag of rice and a bag of beans and a bag of sugar, and beans and rice together make a complete protein. So that's something. And if you have water, and you need to have water as well, you can cook some beans and rice. A lot of people like spices. So if you want some chili powder or some cinnamon or whatever, get those kinds of things.
Well,
That
and like a
don't
water
have to be-
filtration system.
Right. That don't have to be in the refrigerator.
Yeah. Lots of, that's, non-perishables, like,
Now,
just,
let me tell you some of the people that I watch
yeah.
that I just love. Now, I've told you about the girl in the woods. Highly recommend you listen to her. She's a minimalist. She does everything simply, teaches you how to do fires, how to cook outdoors, how to make latrines, what to use for a bathroom, toilet, all of that kind of stuff. She's really good at that. The other one is Cowboy Kent Rollins. Oh my God, I love this guy.
And all of these links will be below where she's going to
Yeah,
add all these. So
right. And these are all on YouTube. And Kent Rollins teaches you how to cook in cast iron over wood out in your yard. You know, how to build a fire and how to put the coals around on the top and underneath and cook your food in cast iron. So if the power goes off, how are you going to cook your food? How are you even going to heat water? You need to learn. Even if you have a situation in a backyard where you have only grass, then dig a little bit of it up, put some bricks or something around, and create a little fire pit where you can put a little grate or something. You know, get you some wood so that you're prepared to heat water and to cook your food. And Girl in the Woods helps with that. So does Kent Rollins. Kent Rollins has some great cowboy cookbooks, and I bought one of them. I just absolutely love him. I just canned his recipe for cowboy beans. You know, fabulous, fabulous stuff.
well, and you're lucky because you've got the skills of being able to know how to can
Yeah.
and do all that and preserve food and learning those skills of,
Well,
you know, and if you're not that at that level, it's like, okay, we'll still
what you can.
prepare.
Now, this other couple or family on YouTube, it's called Homesteading Family. And that's where I learned from her just last year how to can beef stew and how to can meat and, you know, all kinds of stuff I learned from her. And so that's a great person to listen to because she says, stop buying it, make it. I love that. You know, create it, make it. And then the other family that is really good on YouTube, it's called Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. Now, this one I was watching says, let food be your medicine. And so they're teaching you how to grow foods that are medicine. You know, how to homestead, how to grow your food, how to preserve your food. So if you do grow these herbs and things, how do you take care of them? I found out that making tinctures is just as simple as unbelievably simple. Like I just did mullein tincture, where you take the leaves. I've been growing it for the last several months. You take the leaves and you cut them up, put them in a quart jar, and fill the jar with vodka. That's it.
Sounds delicious to me.
I mean, literally, that's it. And the vodka pulls all of the good stuff out of the plant. And that's how they make tinctures that they sell for a bazillion bucks in the store. So I use that. I've made several kinds of tinctures that I keep in my cabinet. And I'm doing the mullein because the mullein has to do with helping the lungs. And as I get older, especially in the winter, I need some of that support. So make your food your medicine, right? So all of these things are good and helpful, but people, start now. If you haven't already, do it. Even if it's just buying a couple of extra cans of food when you go to the store. Start doing it. Get an extra thing of toilet paper, an extra flat of water. Costco has really inexpensive, good water. It's like $3 for a flat. Yeah, don't buy the expensive stuff. It's not necessary.
Not just that, get a water filtration system. Like get like they've
Right.
got ones where you can just filter water anywhere, anytime.
Right, you
Like
can buy those, and we've bought them. They're like a pen kind of a thing, a charcoal pen.
Yeah.
You can literally suck up dirty water, and it filtrates it to where it's pure by the time you drink it.
Exactly.
So those
So
are
that-
good.
yeah.
And in our situation, you know, we're on a well, and so when the power goes out, so does the well pump. So we run out of water. So we save water. All of my extra Clorox bottles or vinegar bottles or even detergent containers, like I use this, you know, non-sulfate Ecos detergent, and it, you know, it comes in these big plastic things. Well, I rinse them out as well as I can and fill them full of the well water. Those can be used to flush toilets or, you know, to wash clothes What are you going to do about doing your laundry? Have you ever thought about that?
I don't think many of us think anything about any of this because we don't actually believe anything's ever going to happen, and that we're all going to be fine, and that we're kind of wacky even talking about it, and that, that nothing's going to happen. We're not going to like.
Well, just think about these things. And if you don't do anything else, get water and food and pet food. But if there's a little crack of an opening in there, start thinking about, oh, how am I going to do my laundry if everything shuts down? You know, how am I
Well,
going
just,
to,
how are you going to survive? Like,
how are you going to
like,
survive? And teach the young people, put their phones away and just learn survival, learn how to cook food, learn how to grow food, learn survival techniques. Teach these young people something other than getting their boobs cut off and watching these stupid phones and this TikTok shit. Oh my God, that part, because it's destroying our youth completely.
that, and they just all want to be influencers, and it just,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, is it's made for that, just to dumb us down,
Dumb us down.
not think, keep us locked onto the phone, watching stupid shit that doesn't matter and has no value whatsoever. And yeah,
None of this woke stuff is going to matter if everything goes down. What difference does it make if you identify with a male or a female and you have no food to eat? You can't survive. It isn't going to matter what gender you
well,
identify
no,
with.
but the thing is because part of it is because let's keep them woke and all focused on these important issues of what this is, so they're not actually seeing what's really going on.
Yeah.
And let's weaken the society so that we just have people that all they care about is their pronoun.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, or that's some type of, I'm
telling you, people, I am warning you. The things that are to come are going to shock you to the core. So start preparing now.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
and focus on the things that really matter.
Yeah.
Because it's like, who cares how you identify? Who cares who you want to have sex with? Go for it. Party on. Have the best life ever. But think about what really matters in life and in the future, and how to take care of yourself and how to sustain your life.
Absolutely.
And the most important thing is just how to love each other.
Yes. And
I
want everyone to thrive, to get through these hard times that are coming, and then to thrive as the new earth is created. But we've got to get through these difficult times before that happens. And I want people to thrive during these times, to have the supplies that they need, to have the plans in place. One of my clients, after our last video, emailed me and said, tell everybody to get their board games, to make sure they've got cards and board games, because they won't have the normal types of entertainment. And I thought, well, that's really a good idea. Because the kids won't be able to do this. Neither will their parents.
Yeah.
Not just the kids. The parents set the example.
Yeah. Just imagine if the internet was shut down.
Yep. And I have a feeling that it's going to for periods of time.
I guess it's just like waiting to see what happens, and at the same time still trying to love my life.
Yes.
Have a good time. I still go out dancing, still go have fun. But at the same time, I'm taking your advice and go to the store and I buy a little extra this and a little extra that and tuck it away. But the main thing is that I've just been really passionate about gardening and getting my hands in the dirt and learning how to grow my own food. But not just that, it's just so rewarding and so joyful to work with it. Like, to grow your own food is just the moment that first fruit appears is like, oh,
I love to count the tomatoes growing on my tomato plants.
Yeah, it's like,
oh, I've got 30 tomatoes growing on my ones on my front porch.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, the moment they turn red, I go pluck them and stuff them in my mouth.
Mhm. Well, now,
No, it's awesome.
one other thing in terms of love that I wanted to bring up. And, these people in the EU are seriously in need. There will be probably very little, if any, heat or power for them, through the winter. We need to send a lot of love to these people. Old people, fixed incomes who can't pay 100% more for utilities, and that's what it's costing. Stores have had their grocery stores, their power shut off. They've gone from a few $1,000s a year to almost $100,000 a year. Their contracts with the utility companies are done. In Switzerland, they have a law now, and that law is that you can't have your thermostat over 62 degrees. And if you break the law, there is a three-year jail term. This is Switzerland. So, I mean, the people over there are going to have a horrible, horrible winter, and we need to send as much love, as much healing, pray for solutions for them, that they will have the power that they need to survive. This isn't just like maybe here things might go off for 2 days or 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, this is the entire winter.
And the winters there are not fun.
Brutal.
And they're long
Yeah.
and they're dark and
Yep.
they're cold.
Yeah. So be sure to remember them in your prayers. It's a tragic situation that these stupid, irresponsible people with their chessboards, moving their pieces to see who's going to have the most power. It's just pathetic. It's just absolutely pathetic.
Yeah.
So,
And it sucks because I wish there was, it's like, what can we do? Like,
you just pray. Really, all we can do is pray and send love
and prepare
and prepare.
And help your neighbors and help your friends. And
neighbors are going to be really, really important for some of these difficult times ahead. They're going to be
community is going to be huge.
Community. The smaller the community, the more help that you will be to each other. Get to know your neighbors. When there is no phone and internet, you can go outside and talk to your neighbors. What a concept.
You're gonna have to anyways.
I know.
But it's like, just basically it's a bumpy road for the next couple months and maybe into next year for a long time.
Yeah.
Because we all know everything needs to change.
Yep.
And it's gonna take time for that to happen. And we all know that there's some not very lovely people doing not very lovely things on this planet. And it's gonna take time for all this to wash itself out and transform. And we don't know what it's going to look like during that.
Right.
And what's going to happen with, money and going to digital currencies. And we don't know what's going to be happening with the gas and all of this, Green New Deal stuff that's just forcing all this to happen. And, we don't know fully what the plan is, because I don't think we're being told fully the truth. But that's why it's just important to prepare and have, just as prepared as you can be for yourself, and, know what you need and create your community.
Get quiet and listen.
And connect to spirit, whatever created you.
Yeah.
Create get to know whatever that is that made you possible and allows you to breathe and exist and think, whatever that is, commune with it and find your way to commune with it, and ask for the guidance, ask for what you need to do to prepare, and the way to be provided for that to happen. And that you'll have the resources that you need to prepare, and that you'll, it's funny, because it's when I do this, the moment instantly, something pops up or someone says something that I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was needing the other day, that now here's the solution. So it's just, connect to spirit, ask what you want, journal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll
And
be back and we'll do this, again in a
yeah,
couple weeks as things get revving up more. We'll be back.
yeah. So, thanks, Mom. Thanks for the updates and what's going on. The warnings of October. Ga, ga, ga. But other than that, ooh, your mic just made a really loud noise. I know, I don't know what you're moving. Okay, so you guys, if you want to spend some time with Mom and get a life reading with some coaching and really get this as on a personal level for yourself, how all this is impacting you personally, again, contact her. It's awesome. She also has a subscription membership program where it's kind of cool because she can dabble in some things in these calls, but where you guys meet up actually in groups and get to discuss deeper really what's going on. And what else comes with the membership? How often do you guys get together?
We just get together once a month. I'm finding that people are too busy. They're too distracted. They can't do more than one a month.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get a recording of it where they can listen. If they can't attend, there's a recording that they can listen to. They get a lot of really helpful information, not only what's happening, the truth, the deep down under stuff, but also they get a lot of information on what to do to prepare, how to manage and navigate, these difficult energies. Yeah.
So if you get a chance, or if you just want to shoot her a question or want any other information about anything else, all the links she talked about are below. And we'll do another chit chat soon. And you guys, if you have any questions that you want her to answer globally or whatever, write them in the comments or whatever, so that the next time we have a call, we can address your questions.
Yeah.
And
also like and subscribe,
yeah,
very helpful to us. Gets the algorithms, so we get more circulation if you do that.
Like and subscribe. And you are Twixt Earth and Sky, right? Or and that's your twixtearthandsky.com.
Yeah.
So yeah, like and subscribe, share, get the message out, tell your friends, prepare.
Yes.
Let's not keep our faces glued to a television and not pay attention to what's really happening.
Right.
And we love you. Thanks for being with us. And we will see you next time. Thanks, Mom.
Guys. Bye. Love you all.